Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time here, you're welcome to Sew with Mediva. On this channel, I'll teach you how to make beautiful outfits using the most simplified methods. And if you're a returning subscriber or viewer, thank you for sticking to my channel. So in today's video, I'll be teaching you guys how to make a simple jumpsuit without pattern. So this video is very detailed, very easy to follow and very beginners friendly. So this is what the back of the jumpsuit looks like. You can see how it's sitting pretty on my body. And you can see how the crotch area of this jumpsuit is very free on me. So if you've been having issues with making jumpsuits, calculating your crotch length, your crotch depth, then this video is for you. So make sure you watch it till the end so that you won't miss out on any information. And guys, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you find it useful. Leave a comment, subscribe to my channel, and also share to your loved ones. So let's jump right into the. So for this jumpsuit, I made use of 3 yards of Ankara fabric, and I have my tape rule, my chalk, my scissors, and my ruler. But the first thing we want to do is to fold up our. So we'll be starting with the upper part of the jumpsuit, and I've cut out my fabric already. And as you can see, it's in a fold of two. Fold your fabric using the widest part of your upper body plus seam allowance. So the back panel is 1.5 inches bigger than the front because of the zipper allowance at the back. So this is the closed angle of the fabric. So let's go ahead now to place the measurements. So I have placed the basic vertical measurements already, and the upper part of my fabric is going to be my shoulder line. And from my shoulder to my bust point is 11 inches, and to my waist is 16 inches. So for this upper part, I'm using just a simple dart. I'm not making use of princess dart or anything. But if you want to make use of princess dart for yours, I have a video on that. So I'll leave it on the description box. So on the upper part, I'm going to mark my shoulder to shoulder measurement divided by 2, which is 8 inches. But because it's a sleeveless jumpsuit, I'm going to take 1 inch out of it. So I marked 7 inches. And then from that point, you come down by your round armhole measurements divided by 2. So mine is 9 inches, but I'll take out 1 inch for it because it's a sleeveless jumpsuit. So I marked 8 inches, and then I'll connect the two lines together this way. And then further extend the line to form your chest line. So remember, we're taking all these measurements on the front panel. Saying that the next thing to do is to place the neckline measurement. So for the width of my neckline, I made use of 4 inches. And then for the depth of the back panel neckline, I made use of 2 inches. And for the front neckline, I made use of 4 inches for the depth. So go ahead to connect the points together. So you can use any neckline design you want for yours. So after connecting it, this is what it looks like. Next thing is to take your shoulder slope. So I'll come over to this armhole line and just come down by 1 inch. And then I'll connect the 1 inch to meet my neckline width this way. And then on this chest line, I'll place my round bust measurement divided by 4, which is 10.5 inches. And I'll look for the midpoint of this line, come in by half an inch, and then just connect the points to form my armhole curve this way. So after doing that, this is what we have. The next thing is to place the darts. So come over to the waistline and place your nipple to nipple measurements divided by 2. For me, it's 4.5 inches. So just mark it down to meet the joining allowance for the upper bodice. I'll mark it this way. And then I'll come over to the bust line and just come down by 1 inch. Then connect it down to meet the that line. And then on this full length, I'm going to take 1 inch on both sides of my line. So if you're on the small size, you can make use of 0.75 or 0.5 inches. And then I'll connect it this way to form a slant. The next thing to do is to place the round body measurements. So remember, you're taking all your measurements on the front panel, so you're not working with the back panel at all. So my round bust measurements divided by 4 is 10.5 inches, and I added 2 inches to it for seam allowance, that is 12.5 inches. So on the waistline, I'll place my round width measurements divided by 4, which is 9.5 inches. I'll add the dart allowance and I'll add my 2 inches seam allowance, making 12.5 inches. So I'll go ahead now to just connect the points together this way. So the next thing to do is to cut it out. So go ahead now to cut it out. So I'll cut out the back armhole first, and then I'll take the shoulder slope, cut out the back neckline. So I'll remove the front panel now and then cut it out. I'll cut out the neckline and trim out the armhole points. So before I open it up, I'm going to place them on top of each other this way and just notch out my dart point so that I will know where my dart is when I'm sewing. This is what we have. So for the zipper bulge, I'm going to come down to the lower part of the back panel and just come in by 1 inch from the zipper line. Remember, I took 1.5 inches and I want to eliminate 0.5 inches for my zipper bulge. So I'll just connect that 0.5 inches now down to meet the upper back of my back panel this way. So this is going to prevent any bulging at the back of your dress or whatever you are sewing your jumpsuit. So I'll cut out this part now, and then I'll come up off again by 1 inch and blend in this 1 inch down to meet the lower back this way. So doing this, you're going to have your back panel sitting very well at the back, no bulging at all. So I'll just go ahead now to cut out this part. So watch what I'm doing. I'll take out this 1 inch at the lower back, and then I'll cut out the 0.5 inches from the zipper allowance and just open up the remaining part of the back panel. So this is what we have after cutting out. So by the time we attach the zipper, it's going to sit very well at the back of your jumpsuit. So I'll get the front panel now. I'll use them to cut out lining pieces, and I'll show you guys the next thing to do. So I've used the fabrics to cut out the lining pieces, and this is what it looks like. So I'll go ahead now to separate the fabric from the lining. So after separating, the next thing is to turn over with the lining. So I'm going to open up my fabric this way, and then I'll place my lining on it, right sides facing each other, and then I'll go ahead to close up the neckline. So arrange it very well, and then I'll stitch down the neckline. After stitching the neckline, I'll come over to the armhole and also stitch it down using 1/2 inch, and I'll close up the sides as well. I'll leave the lower part open for turning over. I'll do the same thing for the back panels. I'll place the lining right sides facing each other on each piece. Place it this way. I'll close up the armhole area, close up the neckline, close up the sides and the zipper area, and then I would turn it over. So when I'm done doing that, I will show you guys what it looks like before I turn over. So after stitching down the lining to the fabric, this is what it looks like. So before I turn over, I'm going to notch the neckline so that by the time I turn over, my lining won't be coming out of the neckline. Just make small notches like this. So make sure it doesn't get to the seam, and then turn over to the right side. So I'll repeat the same process for the back panels, and then I will show you guys what it looks like. So after turning over both the front and the back panels, this is what it looks like. This is the wrong side. So the next thing to do before we iron is to sew in our darts. So remember, our dart is going to stop just 1 inch below the bust line. So and I've notched the part on the lower side. So just to be sure, I'm going to come down by 12 inches from the shoulder point, and then I'll just mark out a straight line this way. So remember that for your dart, you can make use of any dart you want. Make use of princess dart for yours. I just want this simple dart because I don't want the video to be too long. So what I'm going to do now is that I'm going to fold the notched parts this way. I'll fold the notched part in this way, and then I will just stitch it all the way down to that mark. Let me just use my chalk to mark it. I'll stitch it down. I'll do the same thing for the other side of the back panel, and then for the front panel, remember we'll be having the dart on two sides. So I'll do it for this side and I'll do it for the other side. So when I'm done stitching down, I'm going to show you guys what it looks like. So after sewing in the darts, this is what we have. So you can see the effect of the dart on the bust area. You can see the bust area is kind of pointing out already. So this is what it looks like, and this is the wrong side. These are the back panels. I'm gonna head to iron it out. So I'll set the upper parts aside now while we work on the lower part of the jumpsuit. So for the lower part, we'll be cutting out the front part first, and I have my fabric cut out and it's in a fold of 2. So for the wideness of the fabric, I folded it using my round hip measurement divided by 4, which is 11.5 inches, and I added 5 extra inches to it because of the crotch extension. And then for the length of the lower part, I'm making use of 43 inches, but I have about 45 inches here because of the folding at the base and joining at the top. So the first thing you want to do, the upper part is going to serve as the waistline, and from my waist to my hip line is 9 inches. So I'll go ahead to mark 9 inches and just extend the line as you can see me doing the video. And then from my waist to my crotch depth is 11.5 inches, but I'm going to add 2 inches to it because it's a jumpsuit. So if you're making a normal pant, you can just add 1 inch to it, but because it's a jumpsuit, for it to be more comfortable, I added 2 inches. So I have 13.5 inches marked there. So after extending the lines, this is what we have. So right now, I'll come over to the hip line and place my round hip measurement divided by 4 plus 1 inch for seam allowance, making 12.5 inches. So on the hip line, place your round hip measurement divided by 4 plus 1 inch for seam allowance. So and place the same measurement on your crotch line. So I'm going to mark the same 12.5 inches on my crotch line and just connect the points together. And then on my waistline, I'll place the same 12.5 inches there and just draw a straight line all the way down. So after doing that, the next thing is to place the crotch extension. So on the crotch line, go ahead to measure what you have there before the line. So whatever you have there, which is going to be your hip measurement, divided by 4. So I have approximately 3 inches for my crotch extension for the front panel. So I'll mark 3 inches there. And then I'll come up to this corner and just take 1 inch up and form a curve from the hip line down to meet the crotch extension, the 3 inches. So this is what we have after doing that. So you should have something that looks like this as well. This is what next thing to do is to place the knee measurement. So from my waist measurements to my knee line is 24 inches. So I'll go ahead to just place 24 inches there and extend the lines. So after extending, this is what we have. So come over to this line now and take the midpoint from your crotch extension. So measure the lines to your crotch extension and take the midpoint. So the midpoint of this line for me is about 7.5 inches, and I'll go ahead to mark it there. And then I'll take my long ruler and extend this line down to the full length of my pants. I'll draw it all the way down this way. So on the knee line, I'll place my round knee measurements divided by 2, which is about 11 inches for me and 1 inch for similar one. That is 12 inches. So I'm going to divide that 12 inches on both sides of the line. So I have 6 inches marked on both sides of the line. And then I'll come over to the full length of my pants and mark the same 6 inches on both sides. But if you want your taper, you can take out 1 inch, making like 5 inches on both sides. But I want it just straight down from the knee. And then after doing that, I'll take my roller and just connect the points together. So connect from the knee now down to the full length of the pants this way. And then after doing that, I'll take my pants curve and just connect it down to meet the crotch extension this way, forming a curve. So I'll come over to the waistline and place my round waist measurements divided by 4, which is 9.5 inches for me. I'll add 1 inch for that and 1 inch for similar ones, making 11.5 inches. And then I'll place it on the waistline. And then I'll use my hip curve to just connect it down to meet the hip line this way. Connect it this way. And then from the crotch point, I'm just going to connect it down to meet my knee line. Just connect it this way using a slight curve this way. So after connecting, you should have something that looks like this. So the next thing we want to do is to insert our darts. So for the darts, just go ahead to extend this line up to the waistline. Just extend it up this way. So on that line, I'm going to take half of an inch on both sides of the line. We'll take half inch on both sides of the line, and then I'll come down by 5 inches from the waistline and just form my darts this way. So I'll notch that part out so that when I'm sewing, I'll know where my dart is going. So let's go ahead now to cut it out. So guys, don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you are yet to subscribe. Give this video a thumbs up if you find it useful, and also leave a comment. So I'll just cut off the crotch area. And before I open up, I'm going to notch the dart points. So that when I'm sewing, I'll know where I'm closing up for my darts. So right now, I'll just go ahead to use these front panels to cut out my back panel. So to cut out the back panel, I have placed the front panel on a fabric, and the fabric is in a fold of 2. So on this crotch area, I have an excess of about 3 inches, and on the upper part, I have 2 inches there, and on the sides, I have about 2 inches as well. So the first thing I'm going to do is to come over to this waist point and come in by 2 inches, and then I'll just mark it up there. And then this same 2 inches I took, I'm going to replace it on the other side of the waistline. I'll replace it this way, and then I'll connect it that point down to meet the upper part of my fabric, forming a slant this way. So that is going to be the new waistline for the back panel. So we are raising it up because of the butt so that the butt can sit very well on when you wear your jumpsuit. So I'll come over to this crotch extension and extend my crotch by 2.5 inches. But if it's a small sized person, you can use 2 inches, and if it's a very big person, you can make use of 3 inches. So I'll connect this new crotch extension now down to meet the new waistline. So just what I'm going to do here. So I'll just connect it this way, forming a curve. So I'll curve it out this way. So you should have something that looks like this as well. So when you place your front panel on it, it's going to look this way. So this is what we have. So just go ahead to mark out my 2.5 inches again. And the next thing to do now is to add seam allowance on the inside of your pants. So I'll make use of 1.5 inches for that, but you can use 2 inches depending on how, if you don't want your pants to be too tight. So I make use of 1.5 inches all the way down. So after connecting the points down, this is what we have. So I'll come over to the other side and also take the same 1.5 inches all the way down. This is just because the back panel is always bigger than the front for ease and for the butt. So I'll mark it all the way down and connect it all. So for the dart on the back panel, I'm just going to measure what I have in front here and then place it on the back panel this way. And then I'll take half an inch on both sides of the line, just like I did for the front panel. So I'll set the front panel aside now while I take the zipper allowance for the back. So I'll come down by 7 inches from the waistline and I'll come in by 1.5 inches, which is my zipper allowance for the upper part. So I'll be cutting out that part as a zipper allowance. So I'll just come down here by 5 inches like I did for the front panel and connect the points together. So the next thing to do now is to cut out the back panel. So I'll just go ahead to cut it out. And then when you're cutting out, you cut out your zipper allowance this way. So after cutting out, this is what we have. So I'll just get the front panel now. And the next thing we want to do is to join the pieces of fabrics together. So I'm going to place them right sides facing each other. So place the front panels right sides facing each other and then go ahead to stitch it all the way down. Stitch the crotch area all the way down. So you can iron your stay on that part of your fabric so that it's going to be more stable. And then after that, I'll take in the dart on the waistline. I'll just sew it in down to the 5 inches mark. So when I'm done with the front panel, I'll repeat the same thing for the back panels. I would place them right sides facing each other and close up the crotch area starting from the zipper allowance. I'll start from the zipper allowance and close it up all the way down using half an inch. I'll also take in the darts and when I'm done, I'll show you guys what it looks like. So after closing up the crotch area and taking in the darts, this is what it looks like. So this is the back panel. This is what it looks like. So this is the zipper allowance as you can see. And then I've also closed in the dart. And this is the front panel. This is what it looks like. So the next thing to do now is to join the upper part and the lower parts together. So this is the upper part of the front panel. I'll go ahead to place it on it this way, right sides facing each other. And then I'm going to stitch it using my 1 inch seam allowance all the way down. And then for the back panel, I'll repeat the same thing. I'll place them this way and stitch it all the way down. I'll put the same thing for the other side and I'll show you guys what it looks like when I'm done. So after joining the upper and the lower parts together, this is what it looks like. So the next thing to do is to join the front and the back panels together. So I'm going to measure them this way, right sides facing each other. And then I'm going to start from the shoulder point. I'm going to join it using half an inch. And then when I'm done joining the shoulders, I'm going to come over to the crotch area and just merge the two crotch points together. I'll merge it together and then I'll join it together using 1 inch. I'll close up the inner part of the pants using 1 inch all the way down. I'll do the same thing for the other side. I'll close it up all the way down. And then when I'm done doing that, depending on the amount of seam allowance you took out when you were cutting, you can just join them together this way and stitch it all the way down using that same seam allowance. So since mine is 1.5 inches, I'll stitch it all the way down. I'll do the same thing for the other side, stitch it all the way down. So when I'm done closing up the crotch and closing up the sides, I'll show you guys what it looks like. So after joining the sides and closing up the crotch area, this is what it looks like. This is what we have. The next and final thing we want to do is to insert the zipper at the back. So I'll just flip it to the back side this way, and I'll open up my zipper, and then I'll place it on it this way. I'll place it on this way and fold it in at the base, then stitch it all the way down to where my zipper allowance stopped. And when I'm done doing that, I will do it for the other side as well. Make sure the part of the zipper that has the fabric is towards the open angle of the jumpsuit, and stitch it all the way down. So when I'm done doing that, I'll show you guys the finished product of the jumpsuit. So after inserting the zipper, this is what it looks like at the back. You can see how neat it came out. So this is where we'll end this video for today. So I hope you found this video useful. Don't forget to give it a thumbs up, leave a comment, subscribe to my channel if you're yet to subscribe, share with your loved ones, and then I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.